Okay, well, it's always great to see so many friends and folks that I haven't had a chance to meet. I love this stuff. I mean, I'm sitting here listening and I'm taking notes from the 3 previous projects and thinking, okay, we should do that, and I got to go see that, and yeah, I really like that idea. Pierce Jones in the front, obviously people have mentioned his name before, but this idea started decades ago with the concept of how do we do development differently in Florida. And for those that don't know me, my background, I grew up in Jupiter, went to the University of Florida, go Gators, and started out as a land use and environmental lawyer, and then started a little company called Family Lands Remembered. I've got 2 of my colleagues here today, Evan Wesselman, who's joined us from the private equity world. He just celebrated his year anniversary. And then, of course, my mom, Ann Cox, who needs no introduction. The native plant folks always get a kick out of the fact that I tell them, well, she's a PhD botanist and probably the world's expert on the 4-pedal pawpaw. When I was growing up, she was a state champion motorcycle racer. So I just think that's kind of a cool thing. Talk a little bit about Deering Park. I've had the great, I've just been blessed to work on some really cool projects with some really cool people. And up in the left-hand side is the boundary. The bright green are the current conservation lands outside of Deering Park. So you've got Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge. You got some pretty interesting pieces. The dark green, that's 46,000 acres of connected ecosystem that's already been placed in permanent conservation. So before any development at all is being done on any of this property, that land's been protected. Let's see if this little button works. What's kind of neat is we also have a regional trail system that actually runs right through here. So if you wanted to get on your bicycle in Claremont and ride it across and across and across and across, you could get right here. And we're adding another 7-mile segment. Deceiving, this is 22 miles from here to here. And then on the right-hand side, kind of a blow-up of this top area, which is over here. Back to Pierce Jones. Whenever I hear somebody say Dr. Jones, I think of Indiana Jones, Dr. Jones. But Pierce was involved long before I was in this project, which we call that Deering Park North. In a former life, it was a DRI called Restoration. And before the first Restoration DRI was to do conventional development on the uplands and the uplands and the uplands and the uplands, and over a 5,000-acre piece of property to pretty much impact everything. And through the good work of Pierce and the Program for Resource-Efficient Communities, hey, Brian, over time it got moved into this footprint, and was a really innovative project called Restoration. I see Brian Kane in the front. You one of the kind of visionaries for restoration. Unfortunately, the economy didn't go well, and so since our folks already owned this 59,000 acres, which, by the way, they bought in 1925. And I'll tell you a little bit about the family in a minute. We decided to buy this, but keep the conservation footprint, but then update it to today's needs, particularly if you notice lots of connected lakes. The planning for a 100-year storm doesn't exist anymore. We don't have 100-year storms. We need to plan for 20 inches of rain in a day. And so the world is different. So that's what we're working on. We broke ground on this last fall. We broke ground on the Welcome Center here, and we're going to hopefully do a good job with creating a new community. I'd mentioned, I got ahead of myself, the connected stormwater system designed to meet and exceed the outstanding Florida water criteria for water quality, even though we're not in an OFW, but designed initially to meet the 100-year storm event but then also to meet these extreme events that we're starting to see, and connect it through the system with each other, and then to use low-impact development techniques so that we have ponds that look natural, but they also filter water. We have swales that connect water off the street before it goes into a stormwater pond, trying to connect everything so it's not all curbs and pipes. We will have curbs and pipes in the urban parts of the community, but the curbs and pipes get to a pond as quickly as possible so that the nutrients can be taken out. So that's one concept. The other thing we're doing, this I'm actually really excited about. The city of Edgewater has a permit to discharge, on average, 750,000 gallons a day of treated reclaimed water into the Indian River Lagoon. And it's treated to advanced wastewater treatment standards, but one of the things that's in reclaimed water are nutrients, phosphorus and nitrogen. One of the things our estuaries need absolutely no more of, phosphorus and nitrogen. And so while it's good that we are converting septic tanks to sewer, unfortunately what happens is as the septic tank to sewer to the plant to irrigation, and what we're really talking about is in those wet months when nobody needs to irrigate their lawn, but yet people are still taking showers. We're human beings. We do what human beings do. That water is just taking longer to get from the septic tank back into the estuary. And so in partnership with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection through a DEP Indian River Lagoon Water Quality Grant, and working closely with the City of Edgewater Utilities Department, we're creating a wetland park to take 100% of that excess reclaimed water out of the estuary. And first, we're going to try to use whatever we may need for irrigation. However, we're also going to bring it into a created wetland park. Has anybody ever been to Sweetwater in Gainesville? Isn't that a cool place? It's a stormwater treatment area, but it's a cool park. How about the Ocala Wetland Recharge Park? Okay, same thing. Orlando Wetland, Green Cay in Palm Beach County. These are really cool. And then when I actually got to work on the 4G Ranch project over in Pasco County, again, a partnership with the Southwest Florida Water Management District, Pasco County, ranch owner, contractor. So this one's going to be kind of neat because it's going to be connected to a community. And then here's that 7-mile segment of the Sun Trail bicycle network that's going to go right next to it. And so we're working with our partners at Florida Department of Transportation through a grant funded by Kathleen Pasadomo, who is, when she was Senate President, said we need to do more trails through the Florida Wildlife Corridor and appropriated $200 million of it. So we're going to be building the wetland park and the trail at the same time. One unique thing for the scientists in the room, this one's a little bit challenging because during 4 months out of the year, we will get no reclaimed water from the city. And so if you design these cells to be exclusively wetland plants, they're going to die. And so what we're designing, and the chief design engineer is Jacobs, and the contractor is Phillips and Jordan. We did it through an innovative public-private partnership through the grant with a design-build team. It's going to be designed to have a deep area and then a little shallower. It's not going to be round. Don't worry. But like a natural wetland that you would see in a pine flatwoods that, you know what, during the dry season, it's got no water in it, but the plants do fine. So this one's really exciting. A couple other things, just to give you some visuals. This is the Welcome Center. We broke ground on it last week. This part already exists. This part we're going to plant. This is what it looks like from the roads as you come in, you see this. Two things about the Welcome Center. It's designed to educate people on the community and the total project of 70,000 acres, the 46,000 acres that are in conservation, the 13 miles of existing bike trails plus the 7 miles of bike trails we're going to do, and importantly, this idea of sustainable landscaping, not only in the common areas, but in the homes. And so I'm just inspired by what's going on with Sunbridge and Wildlight and Waterland. I shared with someone earlier, Waterland for me, I'm like, I don't know anything about that project. Have I been under, what is it? And I find out it's the Parton Ranch. And for those that have been playing in the space for a long time, before the '08 recession, that was going to be developed as what I would call a conventional DRI, with conventional landscaping and conventional homes and gates here and pods there. And so I'm really, really excited that my friends at Dix Height are doing that project and working with the developer to be creative, and it's going to be incredible. But we need to educate people on what are we doing here, because a lot of folks, particularly those that move from out of state, they're expecting that bright green lawn and 2 palm trees. They're expecting it. We've got to explain to them, hey, I know that's what you're expecting, but that's not Florida. I know we've sold this vision of Florida as bright green lawns and 2 palm trees, but that's not Florida. This is Florida. So we're going to do our best to kind of take what's already there and use the plant palette that's growing there already. Gavin Kane's here with us, one of our team members from MLH, and we've got a lot of really talented people helping, but we're also asking our friends to give us input. Tell us what you think. I did mention I'd tell you a little bit about the family. Has anyone ever been to Vizcaya in Miami? Okay, how about the Deering Estate at Cutler Bay? Okay. This building sort of looks like the Welcome Center at the Deering Estate. And that's not an accident. The Deering family bought most of this land in 1925. And for those that don't know, William Deering started a little company called the Deering Harvester Company back in the 1800s, merged it with the McCormick Harvesting Company to become International Harvester. And so we now have 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th generation family members living in the state of Florida, and just excited that they have given us the ability to create this place and to do our best to do it differently. Now, not differently than Wildlight and Sunbridge and Babcock Ranch, but differently than the cookie cutter subdivisions that we see all over Florida. So really excited about that. But show you a few more visuals. A town square. How do you create a town square that works for people, works for businesses? How do we get these people outside to enjoy? Don't worry, the lake is not going to be green, but if you can kind of see businesses, et cetera, into neighborhoods connected and critical, this will be a restored, non-operable Deering tractor. Amenities, again, these are rough scale, but how do you do a connected lake system? There'll be a kayak launch here, pools and clubhouses and native landscaping in common areas and trails and parks. How do we get people out, and then how do you use Florida natives even in your amenities? This, of course, you guys are hearing a lot about this. This is incredible work. I mean, if you have not read the New York Pattern book, pull it down, read it. It's really, really cool. But I'm going to do a little bit more detail on this. Kudos to the folks that put it together in the outside Collab. But how do we create different landscapes? Water, we've talked a lot about water. Soils, talked a lot about soils. Holistic pest management. Again, we've got to educate people, because at the same time that we're doing these creative landscaping programs, you've got chemical companies that are out telling the homeowners they need more chemicals. If you just got to have more chemicals. So excited about that. Streetscapes, yards, side yards, backyards. It's easier to do the streetscape. It's harder to do the yard. And it goes back to how you help educate. One of the things we're exploring, and we'll see how it works, is we're going to maintain everybody's yard. Part of the HOA. We believe that we can do it cost effectively. So not only are we going to work with the installers and the plant materials, but the landscape maintenance, because very few people know how to actually take care of these plants. And so I don't necessarily want the Tim's Allen, the mow, blow, and go people to come in and take care of our native plants. It's not going to work. So excited about that. Layout strategies, we're actually doing the same thing that you saw a little bit ago, is how do you design that? And then I love this idea of the digital marketplace to buy more plants. We're going to build into, when you sit down with your builder, we'll have multiple builders, you select your builder, you select your countertops, you select your colors and your carpets. We're going to add, here's your basic package of native landscaping, but there'll be another group of check boxes where you can supplement that landscaping. And then we're talking about how do we provide, as part of the HOA, some professional landscape architecture services to help the homeowner, so that you don't have to just go on your own. So that's a new thing. Plants, of course, things that grow here naturally, ground cover, trying to minimize the amount of turf, but still allow somebody to have turf in appropriate places. It's kind of funny. My wife and I are selling the house we raised our kids in Jupiter and moving here. We're going to be one of the first owners, but we're thinking about, we don't have any kids at home anymore, but we have a granddaughter who's going to turn one next month. And we're thinking about, okay, what does that yard look like for hopefully lots of grandkids? And so there will be some turf in the backyard, but I'm also looking at, before they build the house, putting 2 or 3 oak trees down by the lake so they can grow as time goes on, and then transplanting some Spanish moss so my oak trees look like they've always been there. I'm going the wrong way. Very excited to be part of those. Thank you.